Welcome to Bonehead. Now, we've got Todd Farmer with us, and Todd's been on the show before. Todd, I don't know that I want to use the word lucky. I don't want to use the word privileged, but you are exceptional because you're the only, is he the third or fourth guest we've ever had? He's the third guest we've ever had on more than once. It's him, Mick Strawn. Mick Strawn's production designer, Nightmare on Street 304. Yeah. And then Ken Boggle.
Laurel Hightower,
who's a dear friend of us, who's an author.
Well, Joe's not working Comic-Con anymore.
Oh, yeah, you've done messed
up. Oh, shit. Yeah, Jared. All right, there's been a fuck ton of you that have been on here a ton of times.
5.
But no, you have. And what's funny is that you were very kind. We had an absolute blast with you last time, but you said you'd love to be back on. And a lot of people say that, and they're just, it's the Hollywood, or the Hollywood no silence, or, oh yes, this was fun. Please God, I don't want to talk to these three rednecks ever again.
But actually, a lot of people aren't talking to you from a tool shed.
No, they're not.
So
you're the only one. But
by the way, if you're building a deck with coffee mugs, you're doing it wrong, sir.
Oh, I am. Well, she got tired of all my coffee mugs, so I got to keep them out here now. So
well, I see it. Is that a NASA one and a Jaws one? What do we got?
Jaws, NASA, Wonder Woman, Jason.
Yeah.
Good Mythical Morning. I don't know if you know those guys.
No.
An Irish thing and Mickey Mouse. And then there's all the the ones with wings and butterflies. Those are in the house.
Yeah. But I didn't want to bring you back on, a week or two later because I didn't want to seem like I was desperate for you. But I'm desperate.
Well, here I am.
I know. I said all that shit to say that I'm so happy to have you back.
Well,
I'd really like to get you to some conventions out here sometime.
Yeah, I'd love that.
As soon
as the world starts turning again. I guess the world is kind of turning again now, isn't it?
Well, I think our big convention that we do, Scarefest, is coming up. It's going to be rolling out in October, and there's a few more. But yeah, in Florida and a few places in the South are really getting back up. So
that's good.
How have you been? Before we follow political movies, how have you been?
I mean, since the last time we spoke, I went from here to the house, and then I walked back out here again, and I've done that a bunch.
But you run, you're healthy.
I'm only just now starting to run again because I felt bad doing it.
Why?
I've read some article where when you're running, you're actually spreading a cloud. It's more than 6 feet. You're spreading this cloud of
But you had like a double mask on.
Yeah, but still I felt bad. I felt bad doing it. So I was going some, but I wasn't going enough. And so I've gained a robust belly, which I have to get rid of now.
Well, it's okay. Dad bod, they tell me, is in, but I've had it since I was a teenager, so nobody gives two shits. What?
I'm gonna say I've also quit drinking since last we spoke, because like you, I was drinking all of it, and I thought I'd give it a break.
I think I've said it on here before. I've said it to my two best friends here, but I'll say it to you. And being in all transparency, I knew I was depressed and doing too much when I don't drink beer. I keep it.
He's doing two Zoom calls at once. How can he do that?
Oh, because of the friends thing. Yeah, I don't have any friends. But all the beer was gone, Todd. Does that make sense? Not only was the bourbon low, the beer was gone.
No, it makes perfect sense. When I would go drinking with my friends and they would do beers, I'd get pissed off because it just wasn't doing it for me.
Right. So the beer was gone. And I thought I should probably stop doing this every night after we get him to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're here. We're on the other side of it. I'm glad to know that you and your family are healthy.
We're
good. Yeah.
Stepdaughter's in Ireland back at school. The other one's in there playing video games, and my wife is in Spain. So
I have so many jokes.
Go ahead.
No. Oh, were you able to celebrate? Was it Derek's birthday? Whose birthday? No, it was
like recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, Derek's.
Yeah.
Derek's birthday was recent, and then Tyler's TV show came out today, I think.
Yeah, on Netflix. Let's go ahead and give it a plug. What's the name of it again? I saw it over there. We watched
Jupiter's Legacy.
Jupiter's Legacy. I don't know a thing about it. Do you?
I'm genuinely excited to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he plays a priest or something.
Yeah. So we give a plug that for everybody. I know, right? We're supposed to be talking to you. What do you got coming up? You got anything?
Well, I mean, I go from here to the garden and I pick some strawberries and I go back in the house. Yeah, I've got some stuff. I've got a movie that we're negotiating right now. And so that's a thing. And then I've got a couple of things that were completely on hold because of COVID and now they're not on hold. So
you were planning to shoot something maybe in Europe, maybe something that starts with ire and ends with land.
yeah, right up there.
Yeah.
Up there where there is nothing. But yeah,
Hey,
I have to finish the script. I'm not done. I still get another 30 pages.
well, when we're done with this, we'll pitch you 15 ideas.
Okay, fine.
'Cause I'm still holding you that we said we could do a set visit anyway. So why we had you back on here is that you have a fascination or a love of politics, especially a lot of stuff that's going on right now. But what we wanted to talk about were political movies, because this is something that we wanted to eventually get back to and have a good reason to bring you back, because I didn't want to ask you the same 10 Jason questions that you get all the time. What is the number one Jason question?
In My Bloody Valentine, were you and Betsy really doing it? That's not a Jason question, but I get that one a lot. And I used to.
There are worse questions to have.
I know there are.
I can't believe the writer wrote this. Oh, by the way, the writer cast himself. Who did he cast himself as?
That's not how it happened, but okay.
I know. Actually, no, that's exactly how it happened. He's full of shit. Patrick Lucier told us the story. Go back and watch episode blah, 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 blah. You got drunk.
That's right. Patrick was on the show.
Patrick.
Yeah.
We got Patrick before you, because it took me years to get you, remember? Because I kept getting silence and I thought I was getting a Hollywood no. But apparently you just weren't checking your messages, you say.
No, I never, because you contacted me on Facebook?
Yeah.
No, I don't ever look at those. Although I did do a podcast this morning because I looked at one of those.
Oh,
But it was a podcast in Sweden.
Oh, really?
I thought that would be fun. And
Was
it was
it?
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It was lovely.
Good. I have a bunch of jokes, but I'm not going to make any of those because our Swedish, we don't have anybody from Sweden watching us. We do have a few in Norway, though.
If you
Really?
make those
Well, there you
jokes,
go. That's next door.
I swear to God, if you go on SoundCloud, you can spot it all by country and it breaks it down. And it's like, who in the hell?
I forget that you guys are actually educated. So you actually know that Norway's right there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I know we're from Kentucky, but we actually literally, there's like an actual doctor right below me on this thing. His name's Dr. James Thomas. We all work in higher education.
No, but we sound like rednecks.
Yeah.
And here's the worst joke of the day. Is it this way or Norway? Good night.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So what's your number one Jason question before we move on to political movies? I'm curious.
What were you thinking?
No, it wasn't really. Oh no, I never think that.
No, seriously, it's the jokey one that I get all the time.
I told you I'm not a fan of the series. Yours is the only one that I like. Chad feels the same way. I mean, it's okay. They were fun growing up, and please, I'm not trying to shit on literally something that you've built a career on. But Jason 10's my favorite.
Well, thank you. I mean, I
got the
I
poster
like
in
it.
my room.
I've got the poster. The only person who hasn't signed it's the guy who we've talked to multiple times.
You know, I have pins.
Yeah, you're all the way in California, and you're covered in
That is true.
your COVID that
They're
you
not
run
local.
and blow it out like 12 feet. I hear.
I say I have pins, but I have a red pin too.
Maybe we
Kick
should
this
just
done
send
right
our
now.
posters out to him, Chad, and have him sign them and send them back. Since
I'm
we
just
can't
going to
get-
sign the second monitor. There we go.
That'd be great.
You're done.
I think you all do need to send him the posters. I think you then need to eBay the posters. Let them know they're on eBay and jack the price up.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I
How
mean,
has
better
no one
than-
ever thought of that?
It's better than any Kickstarter you could do. You'll fund your
it's
next
good.
movie.
That's true. All right. So let's get on to you. Did you give me an answer? I don't even remember now. Why did you do it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I did it.
Oh,
What were you thinking?
no, it's a great opportunity. And you work with that absolutely amazing mensch of a person, Sean Cunningham.
Yep. Lovely guy.
Yeah, I know. But honestly, my only dealing with him was a couple of times, and he actually was nice to me. So I didn't have. It's like
he really is a lovely guy. He really is. He's a genuinely lovely guy.
You're the only person I know who's ever said that.
He will look. He's a guy who will fuck you in business, but he's a lovely guy. He'll feed you really good. He opens his house to you. So I mean, you're a part of the family. He's just gonna fuck you over if he gets a chance.
So it's like my family in general.
It's family.
Exactly.
It's family. It's blood.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get started. Gentlemen, what are some of your favorite political movies and why? And I'm going to start with our guest, Chad. No, I'm joking. Todd, what did you think of when you were thinking of political movies and why? Just give me
when you first asked the question, my first thought was All the President's Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my Marshall County, and I don't remember her name, the teacher who taught journalism and so forth. She was also the newspaper, whatever that term would be, and she did the annuals and everything else. But I ended up being editor of the newspaper, and she had us sit down and watch this movie, and it was fascinating. It was just, and it's probably the one political thriller that I've gone back to multiple times. Like, it's one of those movies that it's like Chinatown. Chinatown's playing. I'm gonna stop and probably watch that if I walk through and it's on. And All the President's Men, same way.
Yeah. So what does it for you? Is it a fascination of just how well made the movie is? Of course, it has that great cast, right? Robert Redford, Jason Robards, or is it just the actual real story, or is it an amalgamation or a combination of all those things?
Well, over the years it's morphed. Certainly all of the things you just said that's what it used to be.
Yeah.
Now, since 2016, I see a world that we had the chance to read it, and it just didn't work. And so just looking at those differences has been fascinating to me.
So I kind of feel that way.
Did you guys? You froze up for a second, or maybe I froze up.
That's okay. You're good. We could still hear you while you went. Is everybody good?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel that way about Network, and I don't know that Network necessarily deals with politics as far as government, but it's definitely a political movie to me. And it's written by Patty Chayefsky and it's directed by Sidney Lumet. But to me, and we've talked about it on the show before, Patty Chayefsky was this wonderful writer, screenwriter, and he would get mad when people would call it satire in the 70s. It's like, this is going to happen. And by God, every damn thing except for us that we know of, murdering someone live on television, now we would do it on the internet. He didn't see the internet coming.
Froze back, Joe. There you are.
Am I good now?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're okay. You're okay. I wouldn't say you're good.
Well, what I said was the most brilliant thing you've ever heard about Patty Chayefsky. And basically, I think I'm reincarnated as he. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Network, like you're talking about, when I saw it as a kid, as a young man, probably too early to really understand most of it, but it's like the same thing you were talking about. You loved it for how well made it, for all the great performances, for all the great writing. And then now it's just like he was a soothsayer. It's all come to be. And the only thing we haven't done is murdered someone on live television that I know of. And if we did, we'd just do it on the internet.
I was about to say, I mean, we have seen broadcasts of people be killed on television.
Well, hold on. Let me rephrase. In the actual ending of Network, somebody help me. It's not the three big ones. It's a made up one. Let's call it PBC. PBC has him murdered on live television. I can't say that that's happened, but would either one of you all be shocked if it did?
No, not really. Not nowadays, I wouldn't, especially when we have somebody who was basically telling people to do that. I mean,
right.
It's actually shocking that it hasn't happened, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, we came very close on January 6th. I mean, that's the plain and simple truth.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, there were pipe bombs there. If those had gone off,
yeah,
people would have started shooting. I mean,
we had people in the Capitol with zip ties. I mean, anything could have happened. So yeah, no, Network is very more plausible than it was in the 70s. So,
But even though, like I said, Patty Chayefsky always fought against them calling it satire, saying, no, this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. Never trust your television. He just didn't see the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
David Bowie did.
What'd you say?
David Bowie did.
Well, we're not all Bowie. You
Well,
see
no,
those
that's-
memes, right? Was it, did Bowie die in 16 or 15? It's always,
It was just right after he got in office, so 16, I guess.
yeah.
16.
Yeah.
So 16, and so Bowie, everything's went downhill since Bowie died.
Hmm.
All right,
You know,
gentlemen, go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, the movie that came to my mind as soon as you said political films, and I think it's so, I don't know if it's cyclic or what, but I watch it and it's unbelievable. But I think the history of the movie even premiering, it's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I think it's unbelievable that somebody that quote unquote innocent could make it that far. But I also think it's interesting that when they showed that movie, it was attacked as being communist. It was attacked as being anti-American. And you watch the movie and it's, you would hope there was a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
But the fact that that's the big bad, right? That the time, I mean, allegedly Capra claims in his autobiography that some of the senators that attended the screening because it premiered in DC walked out because it was an anti-American film. I don't know. I think it's, but even watching it now, I'm like, there's no way that guy makes it to. He's not going to Washington. There's no amount of election he's going to win because he's too good.
Yeah.
So is our cynicism that bad that we now think it's more plausible for CBS to murder someone on live television than it is a wholesome American who stands up for rights to make it to the Senate? Is it cynicism or is it just accuracy?
I don't think if you changed it to Fox News, I would more believe it, or even one of the newer ones.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm pretty cynical at this point. I mean, I'm probably far worse than when we spoke the last time, and that was what, 8 months ago?
Yeah. Why are you worried? Go ahead.
I mean, because I would say we are in a world where network could happen and it's shocking to me that it hasn't already. Yeah. We are in a world where Mr. Smith can't happen. It's just I agree. I don't think there's anyone on either side of the table that's that pure of heart. And I think, sadly, the thing that depresses me the most about All the President's Men is that it simply cannot happen today because we had that opportunity and they were dealing with one break-in. I mean, the list of things that we were dealing with, I remember seeing, and I mean, if I told you this last time, shut me up, okay. But I remember seeing I think it was a car commercial and it was an SUV and the SUV pulls in the driveway and the back hatch opens automatically. So it was several years ago and there's a dog there and all of these ping pong balls start coming out and the dog's going ape shit because he's trying to catch and he can't catch any of them. That was Trump. It wasn't one ping pong ball that we could grab and say, look what happened. They broke in at Watergate. It was thousands of ping pongs and 2 or 3 or 4 every single day. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how you don't get frustrated.
Well, I was saying, do you think that's part of the frustration, though, is that we can't, maybe part of the 24-hour news cycle is part of the issue, is we can't focus on one thing because we have to jump over to, okay, now he's just, I don't know, yeah. I'm going to say something ludicrous. He declared war on, I don't know, Angola. So we got to look over here. We can't focus on this, which we still don't know everything about.
Yeah, I totally think that's part of the problem as well. I mean, and I wonder, people would say, oh, he's smart. That's by design. No, he's a moron. It's not by design. That's just how he has gotten where he's gotten because that's just who he is. It's one thing right after the next.
Well, and I think, and maybe it goes back to being cynical, but I think that's one of the things that every time the argument of, oh, he's smarter than the average bear, that we have documentation that before he's ever elected, the contractors that he swindled, really. Yeah. I mean, he didn't pay them. He didn't. And everybody's like, well, that's a sign that he's a good businessman. I don't want that person. And the flip side of that too is I think this idea that I've heard several people say, I want a president I can have a beer with. I do not. I want somebody that's so much smarter and so much kinder than I am that I don't even belong in their orbit.
Yeah. And that idiot doesn't drink anyway. So,
But oh my God, that opens up so many layers to me. And Chad, we haven't even got to what one of your favorite. So let's go to Chad. Chad, what's one of your political movies that you want to talk about? And then we'll come back because I got a lot.
I made a list of 8, and I'm going in with the parodies or the satires that aren't. And this one might be argued that it's not necessarily a political movie, but I view it as a political movie. Being There.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a political film.
Yeah, because I kind of feel like that is the situation we're in right now. Well, we're somewhat out of it, but 4 years from now, we don't know where we'll be.
Agreed, because 40-80% of the country didn't just leave.
Right. And, now we have voter restrictions going on, and, we don't know what the climate's going to look like in 4 years. But and that is one of my favorite. What's one of my Peter Sellers performances? The other one is on my list, so you pretty much can guess what that other one that I was going to mention is.
A Pink Panther.
The Lady Killers. He's in the original Lady Killers.
I mean, if you think about it, like this was made in 1979. It's about a guy who doesn't know how to communicate with people. All he does is regurgitate what he sees on television. And in a way, that is what we've been living through with the last 4 years. Yeah. Everything that was said on Fox News or one of those other places was regurgitated through the mouth of a man who was running our country. And it was
sometimes made scarier too.
Made very scarier.
We've got to amp it up. It's not enough that this was reported. Let's amp it up.
So I actually watched. I loved Being There when I was younger. I hadn't watched it in several years, and I actually just watched about 3 months ago, and it's still amazing. But at the same time, I was looking at it with a completely different perspective. Yeah. Now,
do you see him as more dangerous?
Innocent. Yeah.
Would you say, Todd?
I was saying that was more innocent. The movie was more innocent than what the idiot who came in. I think.
But do you? Oh yeah. Yes, but I know. But now it's curious that you brought it up, Chad, because I haven't watched it in the last 4 or 5 years either. I even have, I have the original one sheet poster for it. But I was wondering if you'll look at it now and go, "Oh, he was innocent." At least that's what you think. And now that you've watched what's happened, or is he just dangerous? He's completely dangerous because if he says the wrong thing and too many people follow.
Yeah. Because that was the whole point of Being There, was he would say something that was, from the viewing point of it, not overly profound, but the people who didn't know that were in the story, interpreted it as something very profound. Yeah, and now I watch it very cynically. I'm like, if he said the wrong thing, and all these people in power interpreted it something completely different, we're in a lot of trouble. And so I was sitting there. I was actually nervous watching it. I really was, even though I knew what was going to happen. Just the current times we live in just put a whole new perspective on me with that movie. So that's all I was worth. Go ahead.
Okay.
No. That's all I had.
Well, based on that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the thing that it's how they interpret what he says. And I keep going back and forth saying that, go back to just Trump for a second. I keep thinking that the people who believed anything that he said, I mean, we all knew who he was a long time ago. I mean, he was on David Letterman as a joke. He was on Howard Stern as a joke. I thought everyone knew that. Just even on his reality TV show, he seemed like a joke to me. I never took him seriously. And so when he would say these things, and the people the people on my Facebook would respond, "Oh yeah, he's so honest." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Was it that they're just dumb? Or I got to think some of them aren't that dumb, but they're embarrassed because they got suckered by a guy who's probably the dumbest guy on the planet. And they just go with it. I keep asking myself, how can he have that loyal a base? And I feel like the motivations have to be all over the place.
So I have family just like you voted, and by the way, we're not an overly political show, but I did want to do this show with you, and we'll get back to some movies in a second. I don't think they're dumb. I think, yes, nobody wants to admit they're wrong, like you were talking about. That's part of it, but the other part of it is he and other people that we've talked about in these movies, and I want to get to one in a second, one that stars the one I was going to talk about next, A Face in the Crowd with Andy Griffith, directed by Elia Kazan. You guys ever seen it?
That was one on my list.
Oh, I didn't mean to take it from you. So, you know,
no, you didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't have a list, so it's just one I was considering.
A Face in the Crowd. Just somebody who speaks something that they think isn't bullshit, even if it is bullshit, just because it's in your face.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think both sides were looking for something like that, that they're tired of. But the problem is that that's not necessarily a grown-up way of handling things. It's not necessarily, like James said, I want somebody who's smarter than me. That's not a diplomatic way of running a nation with 50 states.
Yeah.
And with many different problems and issues depending on where you're at in those 50 states, and a history that is not taught very well in our schools, and the history being so much different depending on your heritage or what group or ethnicity you're from, or socioeconomic background, right? People in trailer parks, family of mine, voting him, thinking that they're going to somehow achieve this American dream.
I mean,
how do you buy into it?
I mean, we're talking about a guy who brags about his gold toilet, so I don't get it.
Well, but we all got one of those. The one thing I agree with him on, if I could get a Diet Coke button, I know it's bad for me, but wouldn't it be nice? Sorry.
Well, I mean, sure.
Yeah. But back to Andy Griffith play in a movie called A Face in the Crowd. And I actually had to look it up. He's an Arkansas drifter named Larry Lonesome Rhodes, who becomes one of the biggest commentators in the country thanks to his unfiltered good old boy talk. And it's what happens is his thirst of power leads to his demise. I don't know that a thirst for power will lead to your demise in our society.
No, I don't think, not anymore.
No. What do you all think? Because a movie, he had to get his comeuppance. In the real life, Bond doesn't come in and save the world.
I don't know, though. I think, again, it depends on where you start from. I mean, my thirst for power isn't going to get me too far. Nobody is going to be like, oh, well, we're going to, I have yet to get a team to follow me. I'll let you know if it happens. I've been thinking again about starting a cult. It's not happened yet. Nobody's signed up. But I think the other side of that is
James's manifesto.
I had to download Grammarly to spell check it. It's going to take a while. Anyway,
and let them cometh and drink the Mountain Dew.
But I think the problem there, though, is going back to what you were saying earlier, Joe, the socioeconomic side of that. I mean, like you were saying, it is one thing if you have somebody that can hand you a start, but I think there's that entire line that it takes 3 generations to build wealth, and what wealth looks like, I'm not sure, but it takes one to lose it. But if you can start with something, it's easier to build power, right? If you can invest something. And I think going back to what you were saying earlier, there's a disconnect where people think, if I get the right person in office, or if I get the right, and I guess there's the myth of the American dream, I think is, and I think that's what has enabled so much of this. And I'm probably going to get flack for this, but I think the problem with the American dream and that myth getting repeating is, well, I don't want higher taxes for the rich because one day I might be rich. I don't want this. I don't want that, because one day that could be me and it could affect me. So I need the rich to be left alone. I need this to happen. I need this. So I've got to, because one day I am going to pull myself up by the bootstraps, and I don't know if everybody's got bootstraps. Some people don't have boots. Yeah. But if we sell that myth, if we keep doing it, we can pretend like all the socioeconomic, all the racial inequalities, historical, all that stuff doesn't matter because we're all American, and that sounds good on paper. It does not seem to be working in actuality.
No, I don't think so.
So is it? Go ahead.
I don't know that we talked about this last time, but I never got rich doing what I'm doing. I had great years and had horrible years, and I had a year where I slept in the car. And so that year I paid $8,000 in taxes. This year, a couple of houses, got this fancy shed, didn't pay a dime. So that doesn't seem right. I didn't, you go back and you look at some of the stuff that the idiot did, where he's double dipping with his daughter. So he's he's paying her, and then he's deducting the money that he's paying her and all that stuff. Didn't do anything like that. All I did was just follow the actual rules. If I'm audited, I'm gold. But it doesn't make sense that success doesn't pay. I don't understand that. We should all want the roads to be better.
Well, Biden said, and by the way, like I said, we have Democrats and Republicans who listen to this, so we're not shitting on one or the other. And there's enough blame to be thrown around for the last long time on both sides. But we're not particularly fans of the last president. You mean to tell me when you were flat ass broke, you paid more in taxes? I've got to ask that question and clarify one more time.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. That's a problem.
It is a problem. It's an absolute problem. It's a problem because when you have money, there's more things that you can do to deduct. There's more deductions. There's more, and it's all legal. It's just the system there is a reason that there was this huge $3 trillion back in 2017 when they did that?
Yeah.
I mean, that helped a lot of very rich people.
And Todd's leaving out the sadder part of that story, that he had to pay all those taxes and then couldn't pay for the tags on his car.
That would have been good if I talked about
By the way, it was a Prius.
It was a Prius. Far more roomy than you'd think.
Well, I'm a big dude. I'm a big dude.
I had a moment where, and it kind of blew my mind recently. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Caitlyn Jenner is running for office.
Yeah, that's
California. Yeah.
And one of the campaign speeches she gave was about how she's concerned because some people are moving away because they don't want to see the homeless. Yeah. If I heard that speech correctly.
Her friend who owned a hangar next door.
Yeah.
To her hangar.
And
that Todd was parking in front of. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to.
That is it.
Did you see that tweet?
I did.
It blows my mind because it does reek of that. Expect somebody to be clasping their pearls, so to speak, going, won't somebody think of the wealthy?
Yeah.
Because how about the homeless? Could we address the homelessness, which probably includes, I'm betting, if I know my statistics, I'm sure there's a couple veterans in there. There's probably some people that have mental health concerns. Probably people
the majority have mental health concerns, don't you think?
Well, but I mean, and then there's also the people that just had bad luck, and those are the people we don't want to talk about because at least then, if we can categorize whether they're a veteran, they may have PTSD. If we can, but it's the ones that really make politicians nervous is when you can say, yeah, they just had bad luck. Something bad happened. There was one too many bills. There was a health concern. There was something, and then they were wiped out. But anyway, I saw that, and it just blew my mind that anybody would go, she's right. That hangar.
She has a point. No. Doesn't make any sense.
So let me ask you this. Go ahead.
I think her situation is she is so far removed from anyone who works a 9-to-5 job or works any relatively normal job, that she's just really out of touch on that entire, like you see that with upper class celebrities. They're so celebrity, they no longer think the way 99% of the people think. And that's on both sides. So she's a different situation, I think, altogether. But yes, it's a weird thing to say in public.
No, it is on both sides, and like it's a very hack joke, but like the celebrity who takes the private jet to talk about how we should, conserve fossil fuels.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Right. But is it that bad? I've heard other people talk about it. I mean, there's been some famous people who've just picked up and left. I mean, and they're either going to Austin or Arizona or these places. Like Joe Rogan moved everything to Austin. Is it really that bad with the homeless?
I don't think so. No. I mean, I was one of them. I was a fortunate one because I had a car to sleep in. But I mean, there are places in downtown. There's a couple of different kinds of homelessness. There is a mental health issue with homelessness.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Yeah.
That we're not dealing with. That's something completely different. And then there's, I was working for a car dealership. I was making money and I was paying all my bills. I just didn't have enough left over to rent an apartment, to even share an apartment. I simply at the end of the month didn't have anything left over. When I wrote the article, I mentioned a therapist, and a couple of people took off at me, oh, well, you were sleeping in your car, but you had a therapist? And I was like, well, WGA has great insurance. I mean, I paid $10 for that therapist.
Right.
She was great. But, that's, yeah.
I just hadn't talked to I hadn't actually talked to anybody about that. And we may be getting slightly off topic, but I wanted to hear someone else's opinion, because when I hear some celebrities talk about this, Joe Rogan I'm not picking on him. This is the one where I listen to him go off about, they're just outside your house.
No, I mean, no, not at all.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I believe the homeless situation in Austin is way worse than it is in LA.
Look, LA's bad, but I think any big city has, certainly any big city with a decent climate has a homeless
Exactly.
population. I remember when I first got to LA, the first guy that I ever met that was homeless, he wasn't all the way there. There was something because I know several times there was a mission downtown that would take him in, shave him, clean him up. He'd be back out there, and he didn't want to be cleaned up because he didn't get as much money.
Yeah.
If he looked clean.
Right.
But you couldn't carry on any normal conversation with him. That's different from, say, a family that they're, sleeping in their friend's garage and they just can't make ends meet. I mean, and that's a problem as well. So there's a lot of problems when it comes to homelessness.
Yeah.
I just don't know what either side is really doing. I certainly, it seems to me like the Democrats, at least at this current stage, are trying to come up with answers, but I don't know I could never figure out what the Republicans wanted to do about it other than just.
I'm going to shit on the Democrats a little bit on this one. I truly feel like that's another one of those things that have been punted.
I agree.
Punted down.
I do agree.
And I'm registered independent, and as always, as we've talked about on here before, in Lexington, Kentucky, or in Kentucky, I'm considered left-wing liberal, and in the Midwest, I'd be considered, somewhere right around a centrist. And by the time I got to San Francisco, I'd be a right-wing nut job. I don't know that that's accurate. It's just what I think in my head.
Yeah. But all across the country,
he's an
asshole.
I knew that was coming.
Actually, that was.
We all agree I'm an asshole.
One of the things
think that's why I fit in so well here.
I think it's just because we're all from the same state. Well, actually, no, just like talking to you. What are you going to say, James? Was it important?
Oh, wait. There's the exception of Mongolia. In Mongolia, he's a dick. Go ahead.
Don't ask.
Well, one of the things that actually I had an international student say something to me that stuck with me, and maybe it gets to this point a little bit. They said, looking from an outsider looking in, somebody that's not familiar, that knows Kentucky because of Kentucky Fried Chicken being now global and all that stuff. The comment was, who would want to be president when effectively you're supervising 50 countries? Because each state gets to have its own state laws. I mean, you can't go against the federal law, but outside of that, you can twerk and alter, and that's why our court systems take so long.
Why did you use the term twerk?
because I've been thinking about taking up twerking. If my manifesto doesn't work out, I'm going to get some of that good twerking money.
You got to do both.
God.
Yeah.
How is your TikTok doing, Todd?
It's called the hustle, Joe. You got to hustle. But yeah, and I that stuck with me because to hear somebody say, you know, it does look different, and just to imagine. And by the way, they weren't overly impressed with either of our candidates last time. To hear them comment on, you know, it's like you all. The other comment that came later was, it seems like you all never want change. Like you go between two sides, and then you're like, okay, you've had your turn. Now we're going back to this side for a while. Oh, okay, we'll go back. And I was like, I can't debate any of that. That seems you may have nailed it. I don't know.
I certainly started out that way because I voted Clinton, Bush. No, Bush, Clinton. Forget the order, but I voted both Bushes, voted Clinton, voted Obama. So this was my first loss of this previous one.
Oh, I lost a bunch of them to Obama.
But I don't. The Republican Party that I grew up in made plenty of mistakes, but that party just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, I legitimately thought McCain was a good choice. I mean, had he chosen a different VP, I think I could have easily gone that way. And I was right there with you. Yeah, I liked McCain up until the end. But when you listen to McCain talk and you listen to Trump talk, it's weird. I ended up getting angry for a party that I no longer really related to, because I had certainly drifted more liberal. But I was angry on behalf of my old friends that Trump had fooled them. And I still get angry over that. And, you know,
what was the go ahead. What was the end?
No, you go.
What was the evolution of you? So I grew up Republican, and then I switched, and there's another one of us here that just switched recently. What was your evolution? What do you think did it? That change? Was it was it internal or external, or a combination of both? Do you think being a dad? Do you think it was living in LA and surrounded by all those leftist crazies? All those orgies you were participating in?
I know it was horrible. The sex stuff was good though.
Did you spend too much time on the dark web?
Too much of the dark web. You and your QAnon, whatever blood thing, orphans. I don't know, whatever it is you guys do to live forever and look beautiful.
I mean, look, I admit I like my steak rare, but I've yet to try baby. Apparently it's supposed to be good, but I don't know.
It all happens at Tom Hanks's basement.
Apparently. No, I mean, I did have a guy tell me, give me this whole big long thing because Tom Hanks is this way because he took a picture of a kid's sock, and that's secret code. I was like, geez, dude. What was my turning point? I don't know. I know part of it was Patrick Lussier was a director-writer friend, is a director-writer friend, and he was Canadian. So obviously he, drifted a little more liberal. And we would have these debates, and he never shut me down. And I kind of feel bad because I tend to shut people down myself now, but he never did that to me. And so we would have open debates, and there was certainly, that was a part of it. And then I just really liked Obama. I liked the way he spoke. I liked the way he talked. I liked, he came at things much differently. And it's funny, I think we talked about it last time. I'd gone back and saw a video of Bush Jr. And it was just like, poetry. It was so beautiful when you've been living with, Trump speak for so long. And just the Republican Party, I would get angry that they're gone.
I agree. I think that's one of the things, speaking kind of like you said with McCain, McCain was a maverick till he wasn't, I think. Yeah. And that was one of the things, I think, when he let in my mind, and I obviously I wasn't invited to the party, but I think when it was, you'll need someone younger and, get somebody, and Sarah Palin, no offense meant to Alaska, but was not what he needed. I thought that McCain really was kind of the last called that generation of Republicans, and watching, and now, you know, we have shows like last week with John Oliver did the entire thing on the deficit about how Reagan ran it up, and actually it was George Herbert Walker Bush and Bill Clinton both worked to fix that. And I'm like, that is that sign of we can have bipartisan work, we can have things like that. And I think what is aggravating to me, and I was a Republican and I left the party, but it got to the point where, and I still see it, why does it have to be us versus them? Isn't some things just a good idea? Like, isn't stopping the spread of COVID just a good idea? Why do we have to make it, well, here's a Republican plan, here's a Democrat plan? And I've started to develop my philosophy that if your speech, your political speech begins with what the Democrats want or what the Republicans want, you lose me. You lose me. How about let's look at what do the Americans want? Can you phrase it that way? But I don't get elected to office.
I have a problem. I admit I have a problem with that. I'm certainly leaning. If someone tells me they voted for Trump, it is very difficult for me to, like, I know I wanted to say on Facebook and didn't say it, that I simply can't, and I'm not in a position to hire and fire people, but I simply can't hire someone who voted for Trump, because it's not a political thing. It's an intelligence thing. It's a how easily can you be duped thing. I don't want someone who is that easily manipulated, that easily conned, working for me. And of course I can't, you know, politically you can't say that because Trump is a Republican, but you know, it's the whole system is frustrating right now, but I hear you.
Well, and I think that's what also got to me was the amount of people that, I mean, you can go back and watch Lindsey Graham talking about how terrible Trump is. Ted Cruz talking about, and then as soon as he got, you know, he won the primary, the amount of people that just fell in line and just like, well, that's our candidate now, so we have to be 100% behind him. That worries me. Yeah. Just that we have to win. Whatever party we are, we should win. And if that becomes our candidate, we're going to fall in line. That worries me.
Why do you think it is? Because I thought when he lost, that would go away. I didn't predict what's happening right now. I'm not, again, I'm the least educated person in the room here.
No.
I admit my intelligence is lacking compared to you.
No, we're fucking idiots. We just went to class.
My expertise is this much in a big field.
Todd,
if you were to fart, I wouldn't be able to continue this episode. I'd be on the floor laughing.
Todd, seriously, I figured out
I can do that.
I was 40 years old when I finally figured out, oh, you didn't like school, but you loved college, and then you got a master's. Well, why did you do that? And then I finally I didn't want to go back to that holler.
Oh, yeah.
But I was 40 before it actually occurred to me that does that make sense?
Yes. Where are you all from? Where did you grow up? Did you all grow up in the city?
No. We all live in Lexington, but I grew up in southeastern Kentucky in Leslie. If you ever heard of Hazard, I grew up about 30 minutes outside in in the hills. Yeah.
I hadn't until the Duke boys, but yeah.
That's the same joke I was going to go for.
No, but I looked it up after that. Somebody said, well, you know, there's one in Kentucky. Really?
Yeah.
And you guys?
Oh, I grew up outside of Moorhead. So Moorhead's the place that everybody knows. But yeah. Outside.
And then we all met at school there, actually, at Moorhead State University.
And Chad?
Waddy.
Chad, tell him which grade school you went to, Chad. Tell him the grade school.
Baghdad.
Really?
That's not a joke. Yeah.
I don't know. That school doesn't exist anymore, though, right?
Oh, no. They closed that down. They shut that down.
Wonder what happened there. Wonder what would have made them change that school and shut it down. What
year did they shut it down?
They shut it down.
After the first Iraqi war.
Honestly, that's around the time they shut it down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They shut it down in 1989, 1990. It was like so dilapidated, I literally fell through the stairs. No joke.
But he was also a hefty child.
That I was. Still coal powered. Everything was heated by coal. They found it had been up and running nonstop since the early 1920s.
Was it a work project? Was your school work? The elementary school I went to was a work project.
Are you like Are you talking about like the New Deal?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, like people don't have food, so we'll make them.
Yeah, the New Deal. Yeah.
My
like the TVA and a bunch of.
I don't. But no,
yeah.
But I don't want to. I don't want to sound like where Joe was from. Waddy, Kentucky is literally 20 minutes away from Frankfort, Kentucky. So
because I don't know the name. I didn't know.
Yeah, no.
Okay. You left Kentucky, brother, and didn't come back. You've been gone for 30 years now, right?
No, I mean, I guess it's been a while. No, I went to my 20-year, I think it was my 20-year high school reunion. So that would have been, but I was in Memphis at the time, and they were having it between the lakes somewhere.
And you want to know, seriously, between us, I never considered myself a true Kentuckian. And when we first started before we started recording, I kind of figured that you're not really a true Kentuckian either. You want to know why? Because when people ask us where we're from, we did not say our county. I always say the town.
Really?
Huh. That has been something that has been told to me numerous times about the fact that I never say the county, I say the town. Everybody in Kentucky, and I noticed it after I was pointed out to me that when you ask them where they're from, they all say the county. They don't say the town.
It is a legitimate reason for that, though, because
is that a sports thing?
No, I think it's. I grew up on my town, the county seat. The town would have been Hayden, Kentucky, but I grew up 30 minutes from there, and I went to high school there. It's not like I have any kind of connection to that.
Yeah.
And if I told you I grew up, I literally grew up in a place called Poles Creek, Kentucky, and you're not going to know where the fuck that is. So normally what I just say is, man, I grew up in the hills. You ever heard of Hazard? Most of the time people have heard of Hazard. Just the easiest way for me to define it. But yeah, if you're from Kentucky, you say what county you're from.
Yeah. And for me, I've always said the town, because the simple truth is where I grew up on a borderline. So technically I was in Franklin County. I went to school in Shelby County. I was technically listed as Waddy, but I have a Frankfort address. And technically, if you want to look at the map, I'm in Grafenberg.
Well, I was about to say, and that was a thing, because technically I was outside of Morehead city limits, and that we lived. It had a post office, but it was called Hogtown, and for some reason, not a lot of people wanted to claim to be from Hogtown.
It's named after his sister.
That's not true.
I dated a girl from Possum Trot, and I tell everybody that.
Well, yeah, that's a good story. They all think it's funny, and I bet you up the accent too when you're in a meeting, when you're a boardroom. I dated a girl from Possum Trot.
Well, I mean,
when I'm in money dollars,
when I'm in the States, I do. When I'm out of the country, I go British.
Oh, do you really? Let's hear your British. Well, let's hear it.
I don't go British.
That's awesome. I can't. But that's better than mine. But I do have real quick. I have a follow-up. So you're talking about you couldn't hire them because of an intelligence thing, and I haven't gotten there. And what bothers me about a lot of my liberal friends, and I watched a lot of this unfold the last 4 years, and I get it, and it goes back to the movies we've been talking about, and we're all in these little silos, right? And we're in these silos where we only watch MSNBC, or we're in the silo that we're only watching Fox News, and we're only getting the shit that validates what we already think.
Right.
We're not watching news. What we're watching is entertainment that validates what you already think.
Yeah, we're not watching news. We're watching opinions.
Right. We definitely. It's all editorial. It's all editorial. And it's all meant to sell you toilet paper. This is something going back to network. Yeah. All meant to sell you toilet paper. But the thing is I have a hard time. And I could think of a half dozen of my friends who just started cutting people out of their lives because they voted for Trump. And the whole time in my head, I realized two things. One, after the election, he's really popular.
Yeah.
About 10 more. I thought maybe he'd have 30% but I mean, we're looking at what, 48%, 47% of the country voted for him, right? Of the people who voted.
Of the people who voted.
Of the
people who voted, yes.
I may have the numbers wrong, but 75 million voted for him, 80 million voted for Biden.
Right. So
if I'm not mistaken.
Saying all that, I can't start. There's no way to move forward by just excising those people from my life. And the other part of that is I would hear this and it's like, if you voted for Trump, I don't want to talk to you. I want you out of my life, yada, yada, yada. Well, first of all, I have friends and family, dear friends for years who did. And the second part of that, it sounded a lot like the shit I didn't like when Bush was in office, and I wasn't particularly fond of the Iraqi war, of saying, if you don't like it, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
That didn't work either.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You're just cutting. These are the kinds of statements, and sorry, that was a long-winded answer to get back to what you were talking about. Those are the type of statements that never get us back together to actually have a conversation.
But
I admit I struggle with that.
We have a dear friend. Well, I did. And he still talks to the two below you, which is still funny because one of them, James, is way worse on him than me. And he's cut me out of his life for some reason.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say.
Well, he's cut me out of the text thing we've been doing for 15 years, the group text. When he
sent you off a group text? Wow.
We have a group text for a long time. There's about 5 of us, and 2 of us are crazy rightists.
What's funny about it too, though, is it's not like that's the subject of the text. Usually it's like, look at my dog pooping in the yard. By the way, Joe, if you want to know what you missed, turns out the doorbell recorded his dog pooping in the yard.
He cut me out of those about 6 months ago, Todd. And I can't tell you why, because James is worse on him than I am about the shit. And usually
you said something.
I think I've narrowed it down to, I don't want to be around those anti-mask Trump people at an event he wanted to go to in March.
By the way, though,
I think I still stand by my answer.
Well, and that was the right answer for you. And if he wants to go, and then by the way, that's where I am. Like, I am not going to dictate. But do you think also the thing that gets to me that I'm having issues with, and there is, again, people in my life that I know that are connected to me, sometimes by blood and other things, the one subject voter, in many cases, abortion is the one that I hear a lot. Well, I can't vote for a party that's for that. And I'm like, but you voted for Trump. Like, it's hard for me to follow your family values theme.
Yeah.
Because
I know exactly what you're talking about. Is it the murder?
Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that. And my entire thought process is, I mean, I don't want to be the one to do it, but I also know the other side of all of these arguments as well.
Yeah.
It is something that I do not want to dictate, but that means I also don't want to dictate it to other people. Like, I don't want to say, to borrow a line from The Simpsons, there's the entire, it's one of the Halloween specials where the aliens replace, telling how this episode is, Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. And there's the entire, yeah. Well, that, Joe, they were before your time. You're so young. Anyway, where they replaced Dole and Clinton, and they're giving a speech, and the alien impersonating Dole goes, "Abortions for none," and there's boos from the crowd, and he goes, "Abortions for everyone," and boos, and he goes, "Abortions for some, small American flags for others," and yay. And that's honestly about where I fall, because I also know that just there's some people that things that quote unquote qualify under strict legal rulings as abortion actually are necessary for some people to have children. Yeah. Because certain medications are classified in that realm. And so I say all that to say, I don't, it worries me when somebody goes, no, this one issue is going to determine how I vote on everything. And abortion's a big one that some people use, but there's other ones as well. And I don't, that worries me. I don't have I don't have a solution for any of this, but it's one of those things that as I see it more and more, and I've heard people say, well, I can't vote for anybody that would kill a child. And I'm like, you voted for somebody that sent a bunch of them to war.
Yeah.
So let's get back to some of our political movies, because I think we went way far past it.
I'm canceled.
That's okay. You've now been canceled, and we've now lost a third. We've lost a third of our 4 viewers.
We were aborted.
We were with a big flashing button.
Yeah.
So what are some more? Who wants to go next? I'm curious to know, what are some of the movies that kind of maybe and this may be a deep question, changed your political views or at least opened your mind? What's another one?
I mean, news radio. Would you call news radio political?
The TV show?
No, not news radio. Broadcast news.
Broadcast news, absolutely, yeah.
It certainly changed the way that I looked at the news, and that's a long time ago. Politically,
I've got one, but I don't know that. I think 12 Angry Men, I saw at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 12 Angry Men showed me a lot of what it was to actually have empathy and be the lone voice. And I think that can be political.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a political movie to me. And it showed me that sometimes you got to be that one person and have empathy and not go with the rest of the room.
Yeah.
It had a good effect on me. Henry Fonda being that one lone guy in that room.
Yeah. I certainly, I'm in a unique situation, mostly just on Facebook, because I grew up in population 4,500, all white county.
Yep.
And I went to a very small Christian college. And so I have those two groups of people and predominantly voted Trump, except for the ones who sort of, it seems like there's the people who tended to get to a bigger city tend to be more liberal, obviously.
That's
and the ones who are still in the small town, they do what everyone around them does.
Yep.
And then you have on the other side, I work in Hollywood, and so I'm surrounded by the most liberal people you would ever see. And so there would be times when I would post a picture of like the former presidents, because I find it endearing that those guys would get together. Like when Obama took office, Bush had everybody over. And it was this lovely moment. Yeah, I know that a lot of people don't like Bush, and I know a lot of people, we went to war and we did this and we did that. I know all of that, but it's still, there's some camaraderie there that no longer exists. And so I know I have a bunch of guys who, posting a picture of Bush, they just start listing all the horrible things about Bush. And I'm like, try to kind of meet in the middle sometimes, just so that we can get to the next step. And I know I tend to be hard on people, and harder than I probably should be. But it's, it's tough sometimes.
No, and like I said, just meeting and sometimes listening to someone else. What about you and Chad? What about you and James?
I'll be honest with you all. I have always been, I'm probably the only one here who's never really been changed. I don't want to say that there hasn't been a movie that ever influenced my political views.
I mean, that's from the beginning.
I mean, I have pretty much always been Democrat. Like the only time I almost didn't vote Democrat was the first election after Clinton. I almost, when the Republican primary was going on and it looked like McCain might beat Bush, I was going to vote McCain. I still would have think, honestly, I really do feel like McCain would have made a great president if he was given the opportunity. Mm-hmm. But then when it became Bush, I went back to Gore, even though at the time I couldn't vote anyway. Well, no, that was actually the first election where I could vote. No, second election I could vote anyway. And then just like Todd said, when it was going to be McCain and Obama, that was probably the biggest election where I was the most conflicted there for a while.
Same.
I have always thought McCain was going to be a great president, but I saw something truly special with Obama and what he was saying. And then what honestly swayed me to full Obama was the vice president pick. And I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that. So that's when I made up my mind for Obama. But I can't think of a movie that influenced my opinion. I will talk about, and this one's kind of on the nose in terms of political movies. There was one movie that I saw that honestly, it's a complete fabrication of what the American president is. But when I watch it, it's what I hope the American presidency can and hopefully one day will be. And that's the American president, Rob Reiner.
I thought it was going to be Dave.
No, I Dave's on my list.
Dave's good, but
no, American president, honestly, when I watch it, I'm like, that's what I want our government to be like. But you know, you watch that now and look how things are currently. And it's basically it is truly fiction.
You wanted an American president. What you got was murder at 1600.
Yeah. Way to go with the Wesley Snipes reference.
Keeps throwing out the political movies. Keep throwing them out.
But yeah, no. It really is on the nose. Aaron Sorkin, Rob Reiner, Sorkin. Did I say Soren? Sorkin. I always do that. I don't know why.
He doesn't listen to the show.
You know, the fact that, you know,
this will be the first episode he does, and then
he'll be so pissed.
He's gonna be so pissed.
So pissed.
He's like,
I'm so sorry.
This asshole who wrote
Aaron. Don't watch tonight's.
That Chad Jennings mispronounced my
Jennings.
I promise it's the bald one with the hat. By the way, this is going to.
Thank God Joe's wearing a hat.
You may not have Aaron Sorkin on there, and I will. You don't have to answer this on air, but I bet there's a couple people who you're friendly with that people would be shocked that are on that cell phone.
No, I don't think so.
I bet. Hey, I'm giving you props. I'm saying that you're.
You got Paul Lynn's old number on there?
Now that's obscure.
Paul Lynn, I would text.
Paul Lynn.
Oh yeah. I mean,
boys,
do it, Chad.
Go get them, boys. The pop filter on this microphone, I got it too close. Go get them, boys. I can't do it. I gotta be drunk to do that. No, yeah, American president.
What are you holding up?
Gangs of New York. Yes. And the reason this came to mind when we talked about political movies is the entire rant about what it means to be who's a true American.
Who's a true American? Well, that shit has never ended, has it?
Well, and
I got here first.
That never will.
That scene, and by the way, the fact the only way our population's growing as a country now, because we can't afford to have kids, is by immigration. And we are still so muddled down in all of the immigration issues. And I don't have the solution. That's why I don't run for office. If I had a solution, I might consider it. That being said, there's images in this which are historically accurate of them, you know, the immigrants getting off the boat and them drafting them or them trying to conscript them into military service and all of that stuff. And the one of the only attacks on American soil by the U.S. military when it wasn't in revolt. You know, all of that stuff, but this idea of what does it mean to be American and there's entire books, I use a couple of them in my courses, you know, about we now have kind of this, no, it's not binary, but this white or other, but then also the fact that there was a history when there's a book called Other Shades of White, when, you know, they would find reasons to exclude you if you were foreign. It didn't matter what you looked like. It was, I mean, they took measurements of Irish immigrant skulls to say, oh, look, they're closer to Africans than they are to, and it was all lies.
Yeah.
But this entire idea of who gets to be a true American and what that means and the politicalization of that, like you said, Joe, it never went away. We still hear we're supposed to fear the other. It's almost like we have Dracula trying to move into the country and be like, well, if you let him in.
Yeah, it really is. It's like those, what is it? There's basically only, and Todd, please correct me on this because you're going to be a much better resource. There's only 2 horror stories, right? There's something out there. There's a guy sitting around and it's the tribe and he's the wise man or he's the medicine man. There's something out there and it's going to attack us or we have to fight it, or it's in here. Right? Those are the 2 horror stories.
I mean, I've actually never heard that. That's great. I like that.
I think I stole it from John Carpenter. And I don't know who he stole it from.
But
not that I hang out with John Carpenter. I just saw it in an interview. But you know,
well, you don't hang out with him, but he doesn't close his blinds all the way.
Yeah, you could text him about that. He's not going
totally text him.
That's my we're this close to getting his wife on the show. Tell her publicist.
I'm not going to text him because he's I can text her too. Tell
her that she needs to do the Fat Guy show in Kentucky because her fucking publicist killed it. Yes. I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Notice how I didn't get pissed about anything till that. It's like it's the only time I've been doing this where somebody said yes and the publicist killed it, or whoever it was, or agent.
But anyway, Gangs of New York, it really does have an effect on me. I can't watch it randomly. I mean, obviously the acting talent and it's okay. They do okay. But you know, I mean, even the U2 song at the end of it, The Hand That Built America, and then you see the background, the skyline eventually fill in and stuff like that. And obviously 9/11 and all that stuff. But I just think there's something about this movie that I can't watch it without thinking, you know, all the times that, I mean, there's a lantern that was passed down through my family from my Irish side, and they were not necessarily welcome in certain areas because they were looking for work. They did move around to find work because they needed work. But, you know, and that story gets passed down, and by no means does that equate to what other populations experienced when they came to the country, nor will I ever claim that it does. But I think this entire idea that, you know, even this, I think there was some recent cleanup of some federal documents where they removed the word alien, saying that, you know, these are not aliens, these are people. We use terms like immigrants and things like that, but we do want to remove alien. But I think that there's just something about the politics of people. And, you know, again, going with comments in my own family, I have sat across from the table with people saying, well, we got to do something about our border. And I have said back, well, I'll be honest, let's say, and sometimes it feels like a little bit too like we got close to it, but if America went sideways and I had to think about what would I do for my children, I would try to find a better life. And is that going to mean that another country is automatically going to say, no, you totally can come here, we'll totally set you up? No. But if my options were that my children are going to be at risk daily, or I'm going to travel however I can to a border and say, please, can you help my kids? I'm going to hit that border. It's at least a chance. And so, you know, that's the parallel that I gave. And, you know, some of the people across the table from me, some of which I said are relatives and friends, said, well, it would never get that bad. I'm like, you don't know that. Like, nobody thought it was going to get that bad anywhere. Yeah. At least, you know, sometimes our optimism is our downfall. But
no, I agree. And look, I live closer to the border than any of us, and I don't see the problems that Fox News is telling me is out there. I just don't see it. So I don't, and I know that a lot of the jobs that are being done currently are jobs being done by immigrants. And we need them to do those jobs. That's how the economy works. So I don't understand. It feels like since Fox News, it's about making you angry and keeping you angry. And I don't understand that at all.
It's phobia of the unknown. And back to the whole thing of, and there's a lot of movies that deal with this, but so James, is it Mark Twain who has the only way to kill racism is for you to travel?
Travel is the end of all bigotry or something along those. He said it multiple ways, different times and different speeches. But yeah, basically his idea was that travel and exposure. And I mean, he even had a line which was very controversial at the time, that there was no beautiful white skin because white skin showed flaws, that he found, you know, darker skin much more attractive. Now that is rooted in its own form of racism and bias, but Twain was saying that, you know, at a time when that probably wasn't the way he should have led the conversation. But Twain also is a fascinating character because, well, person, Samuel Clemens, but be kind of paper on this, not to side note, but Twain was one of the first people to write about how California was treating Chinese immigrants. Yeah. And when the Burlingame Treaty passed, he wrote one of the first newspaper, and he was not a major name yet. He was just a newspaper reporter, but he wrote a big, long, praiseworthy element of, because it was the first time America actually offered full access to education to another country. And it was reciprocal. We could send people to China for education. They could come here. It lasted about 4 years till they passed the Page Act and decimated it. But And so, there's something to that, and I'm biased because I work in education, but I do think if we did give people this shot at education, this shot at, and I mean that both ways. I've worked with international students, and I've learned a lot about, we do need to look at how we do that. That is a valid point. So I don't know.
One more movie I want to talk about, and actually I forgot to ask you if you had a heart out time, so I apologize about this. And then I ask everyone else, and it goes back to those silos, and I don't think that we saw them. I don't even know that Orson Welles saw them when he did Citizen Kane. So talk about Citizen Kane for a minute. And the problem was with Kane was the power, and it's the same thing with Hearst. If you own all the newspapers, you control all the information, you control all the power, right? But we have a lot of that with multimedia. Disney owns X, Y, and Z. Now Disney owns Fox. It's like trying to say, and I saw those memes of the alien queen is now a princess, Disney princess, right? I see that, but what I see more of is back to what I was saying earlier, and I don't know that people saw this, the silos of people only, there's so much media that they can now only go to the source that supports all of their ideas.
I mean, do you guys cross the stream? Do you go over into, because I still check out Fox News just because I'm curious how they're spinning certain issues. That's a nice head, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had to. My head was itching, so I had to take it off.
Very attractive.
Thank you.
Here I am with my hair like a sucker.
I'm biased.
When there's a big news story, I do go to Fox News, I go to CNN, I go to MSNBC to see how each one of them is covering it, and then I go to websites like the Daily Beast and the Guardian to see their coverage on it. I'll be honest with you. I know I'm reading an opinion, but in terms of all of them, I really lean towards the Daily Beast just because it seems like they're telling a legit straight story versus the other ones who are putting in their own narrative to the story. So I do. I check out all of them because I want to see how every side is covering it.
Yeah.
Well, because I don't like to be persuaded through one means, because you can't do that now. Even before all of this, when you had 3 major networks covering the news, that's how people did it, and you still couldn't do it there because you still had people doing the same thing. But anyway.
Well, I mean, there's even the ones that try to be neutral, quote unquote, or claim to be. I don't want to say claim because I think they may try, but somebody still has to pay those advertising time. Like Newsy, I know, is a streaming service. I've watched it I watched it occasionally.
It's the Christian Bale movie, James. It's not news.
No, it's on your smart TV. A smart TV, Chad, is a TV looky box that you can program. Anyway,
he dances around his house pretending he's a 1920s newsboy.
Anyway,
which we all tend to do.
I also try to look at international sources though, so I'll check out the BBC stuff. I'll try to check out what Al Jazeera, all those. I think that's because that's actually one thing I am worried about is that how are we consume news? How is our news being consumed and reported outside? So if we're thinking globally, we need to occasionally look at. I don't know of Australia's newspaper. Maybe I need to ask Glenn about that and find out what I need to. What are we
do this segment for a friend of ours in Australia called Bonehead Weekly Fun Size in Glenn, and we try to throw in something offensive to Australians about every third segment.
Yeah,
right about we do one a week for them.
Yeah, we do pretty well.
Crikey.
Right. It's called Crikey, or it's called the Down Under.
Down Under is good. It's a
good. I stick more with them.
And then Chad from.
But I think I think speaking of how we're viewed internationally and talking about film, I think Team America may be how we're often viewed. In that
I think that's probably extremely accurate. Yeah,
we show up and blow stuff up sometimes, and I don't know. I think also, though, going back to one reason that about 38 to 40% of the American populace still wants to follow at least what Trump is up to is it's reality TV writ large. And so many people want to watch that. But I think also the other side of it is that there's this idea that you can fight the system, right? Like the Molly Maguires. You're going to
I love Jake just throwing them.
Yeah. Hey, it's Sean Connery, Richard Harris, and a young Anthony Zerbe. I pronounced it right at the time.
Right.
But anyway, but looking at what that means, I think people want to believe the rebellion, right? Like if, okay, I don't like the system, so I can be Luke Skywalker or George Washington, however you want to frame that argument. And if I can be the one that overturns this flawed system, then I get to be George Washington or, all of that stuff. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons, like the fact that so many people thought that they were an exception or that they were the patriot or that they were and I don't know what that means or what that looks like, but I think about, and again, it's not overly a political movie, though it is somewhat. Molly Maguire's, they send somebody in to break up this, and they are causing vandalism. They're doing damage. People are at risk. But at the same time, are you countering that with something worse or what that says? Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah, it goes back to the American exceptionalism and ego that we have sold ourselves. And I'm not, and this is going to sound anti-American, which is bullshit, right? We don't lead the way. There's that whole, back to Sorkin, Chad, you were talking about Sorkin, that whole Jeff Daniels thing from we don't lead the way in X, Y, and Z, and that famous speech from, what was that show? I forgot the show. The Newsroom?
Newsroom, yeah.
Yeah, the Newsroom.
Right.
Yeah. We believe.
Yeah, like I said, I love Aaron Soren.
Good man.
Text him,
check out Sorkin too.
That ride that was named after him is fantastic.
And by the way, my answer to your question, I read most of my news. I have a hard time watching any of it. And honestly, I limit myself. I will limit myself. You'll go down a rabbit hole.
Oh, I don't read it. I watch it. I go to websites. Yeah, I don't watch it. I'm sorry if that's what my opinion was. No, I go to websites.
I had to stop watching. I did watch it. I tried to watch it. And like I said, I was using Newsy. I was doing all that stuff. And I'll be honest, the night the news broke about...
And then he got pissed because they kept recommending Hannah Montana.
No, the night the news broke about George Floyd, I was watching the feed, the news. And the exact moment that he passed out initially, he went slack. I was like, no, I can't watch that. I mean, and it should, well, I mean, I won't get on my soapbox, but it was one of the moments where, my kids were in remote class. They were at the kitchen table. And I was like, I don't know how to process this. I don't know. And so, it's one of those things where I had a student call me out on it and say, well, that's a privilege that you get to look away. And I'm like, I'm not going to deny that it is easier to read about than watch. And that is a privilege that, yes, I can say, okay, I'm just going to read the reports now.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things that it changed the way I took on my news, because now I guess I'm a soft American. I need a buffer. I need to be able to say, okay, I don't want to see the raw feed, the live feed.
I was going to say, yeah, you're a soft American. Have you seen your waistline? Thank you.
Yeah, it's because I eat good American foods, nachos, pizza. These were all made on it. These were all made solely by Americans and not informed by any other country whatsoever. By the way, did I mention I'm trying to get my own right-wing radio show?
Well, we've been going.
Well, there's good money in it.
There's got to be good money in it. By the way, another thing that we bitch and moan about all the time is if we would just stop doing these interviews and talking to people who are behind the scenes, that we'd make a killing with ad sales if we just do true crime. But we just can't bring ourselves to do it because I don't want to talk about true crime.
No, I don't need. There's certain things. I mean, I'm fascinated by Jack the Ripper because I don't have to worry about him. If he's still out there, he's good.
All right.
He's fine.
So we've been going an hour and a half. So let's just start thinking about wrapping it up. What are is there other ones you all want to talk about or want to bring up? Todd, you are our guest. We are your hosts. What else?
Love 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah.
Love the book. Read the book after saw the movie.
I never saw it, and I never read the book, and I actually hadn't seen it till about 2 years ago. I don't know why I hadn't.
Did you like?
Yes, I liked it. But
I mean, seeing it ages ago, it was mind blowing. Seeing it now, it feels more dated, but it's still. I mean, it's still.
Well, what I think is back to what we're talking about with Network and a few of these other ones. It wasn't. I don't even know if it's dated as much as it just seems so plausible. Right. Another one of those is, have any of you guys ever seen 7 Days in May? And I'm going to read you the quick description. It's Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster. It's set 10 years in the future. It came out in 1964 when it was released. The film is a thrilling drama that follows a planned coup of the president in 7 days after a nuclear arms treaty has been signed. So the president is going to do this treaty with Russia, and Burt Lancaster is a hard-nosed general eagle, and they're going to do a coup. And Kirk Douglas is the guy of, should I do it? Should I not do it? And once again, in 1964, this is probably scary as hell. And now I guess it should be scarier because now what day was it? January the 6th, Chad?
Yeah. Yeah.
The only difference is those were fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Right?
But
dangerous. Because an idiot is dangerous. Very dangerous. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and if this one pisses anybody off, I'm not saying I'm sorry. Those people were fucking idiots.
They were. I mean,
agreed. Everybody agreed.
Even some of my more conservative friends were very quick to jump out and say, "Oh, they were idiots, and they deserve to go to jail. They deserve to whatever that happened." And I know there was at least one guy who was arrested in Benton. Because I put his picture up on my Facebook all the time.
Did you do it? Were you the one that outed him? Tell the truth.
I didn't. No, I didn't out him. I saw him outed, and I put it up, and I said something along the lines of, "Have they made him Grand Marshal of Tater Day yet?" Because Tater Day, if you guys have never experienced it, is lovely. But they're not doing it this year. I've heard.
What? They did do it. I don't know. I'm gonna do Tater Day. Now I want to go. I've always wanted to do what's London, Kentucky?
I'd say, we've done
chicken fest.
Yeah, we've done the mushroom festival. We've done beer cheese festival. We've done
this is all true, Todd. We drove to Irvine, Kentucky to do the mushroom festival. Could not buy a damned mushroom at the place. There wasn't even a vendor selling the deep fried mushrooms that'll give you a heart attack as you walk away.
I've done country ham days, spoon bread day, and corn days.
Oh, spoon bread, that's Berea. Now that's a good time. If you ain't ever had spoon bread, get to Berea. It's a good time.
No, I've never had it.
I've never had it either.
Joe can back me up on this. James's taste buds are insane. Spoon bread is disgusting.
I've never had it, but
it's disgusting.
I don't know what it is.
Now, in all fairness, Chad, you don't like nacho cheese on a steak. I don't know what's wrong with you. It's called a Philly cheesesteak for a reason. You can use Cheese Whiz. It's fine.
So why don't we go to Tater Days? Or is it just Tater Day? What is it called again?
Tater Day. I mean, I haven't been to Tater Day in 30 years. I have no idea what it is anymore. Well, I know it originally started, all the old white guys would gather around the courthouse, and I think they trade stuff. They bring in things, taters and knives and their old case knives, and that's how it started. And then there'd be a parade that would, at the end of the day, you'd have to be dodging all the horse shit because it would be everywhere. And because in Tater Day, the biggest part of the parade was the 17,000 horses.
Now, can I ask
all the marching bands.
Was there a Tater Queen? Was there a Tater Queen? Was there a Mrs. Tater?
There was definitely a
potato head, by the way.
There is a beauty contest at Tater Days.
Well, yeah, I asked that because Moorhead used to have long ago. They had the Hardwood Festival. I don't know what killed it, but
Moorhead, Kentucky had the Hardwood Festival. It was also home of the Licking River. The double entendres are just killing it.
Well, I was about to say, and there was a Mrs. Hardwood or Miss Hardwood.
I don't know how to feel about this, where it says water treatment plant, kiddie rides only.
What?
I'm looking at the Tater Day flyer from 2016. It says water treatment plant, Poplar Street, kiddies ride only.
I mean, Anyway.
I just go to Tater Day now. This is off topic completely. Now it's just four rednecks talking about Kentucky, but let's go.
There is the Miss Tater Day pageant and the little Mr. and Miss Tater Day pageant.
Can I throw out two more semi-political films really quick? I'll just name drop.
Yes.
I'm done reading the Tater Day.
You got to talk about The Man and Undercover Brother.
You're not here for Undercover Brother. You must be. No, you're not here for.
Undercover Lover. You must be here for Undercover. But honestly, I rewatched this not a while ago, recently, and I actually got to thinking about the comments that are made about The Man, about how the manipulation of the system. It's done as parody, but I was like, given some of the recent news, it feels like it could actually happen. Yeah. And then the other one that I thought about that has some political commentary hidden under a lot of explosions is Dread, which is an entire, 2000 AD, the comic series and all of that stuff, written some of it during Thatcher's England and all of that stuff, but about this totalitarian, okay, we can't solve this, so we're just going to control it. Yeah. And I think that's there's got to be some sort of happy middle ground between complete anarchy and totalitarianism, and I don't know if we found it yet. But
well, hey, where was that Twain quote that you mentioned before? Is that something he said, or did he write that in something?
It's in one of his speeches.
James made it up.
No, I did not make it. I got the complete Twain over here. I think Joe sent you an email earlier.
We'll email it to you.
Yeah, I've got it.
You got the complete Twain, so you dug him up?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let me piss off Todd. Todd, I'm going to give him your phone number, and then he's going to text it to you. And then I've got this guy who's got this really good idea for a script.
Is his name John Carpenter?
No, but you forward it to him.
No,
forward it to him. Just forward it. Don't read it yourself. Just forward it on.
Just forward it on. Go, John.
I didn't look at it, but I thought of you.
I realized, by the way, I'm halfway telling this story. I was being sarcastic about maybe knowing somebody, but I guess it sounds like it was me. That's actually not what I meant.
And it could be if the price is right.
Could be. Stephen C. Miller, the director, I think you know him. The other day, we're friends on social media, and he posted something. He said, "Should I do werewolves, something or something?" I was like, "Possessed werewolves, Bonehead will have it. We'll have the first treatment in 2 weeks."
Yeah. Now it ain't going to be good, but we'll have it.
We'll have it in 2 weeks. He said,
"You want to know?"
All I got out of him was and then, by the way, I had about 2/3 of it. The third act. We need to work on the third act. But the possessed werewolf film, it's always the third act problem, right? It's always got third act problems. But the first 2 acts were done, buddy. And then 30
has he been on the show?
Yeah, Stephen C. Miller's done the show. He was actually, he's a fan. His first, he's another one of those made it. And I'm giving you a compliment too, of just making it from pulling themselves. Neither one of you are from industry folks.
No.
Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah.
You pulled yourselves up and you pulled yourselves into the industry and made a living. And he did it from Florida. And with is it Automaton Infusion or something like that? His first zombie film that just kind of broke something he did low budget. And that led to X, Y, and Z. So yeah, he was on the show. Actually, I think he might have been on the show right around the time you were last time.
Okay.
Our claim
like
lately, by the way, is we had. Why did I have to look at Nicholas Meyer's name? I forgot. We had Nicholas Meyer a few weeks ago. If you're a Star Trek fan, or Time After Time,
or sure,
we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about you.
Why?
And Tater Days.
Tater Day was fun. I can't remember Tater
Day. You think Tater Day will become overly political now?
It could.
Do think what?
Do you think Tater Day could become overly political? Because that's the other thing that I've seen. I go for walks with my wife when she agrees to be seen in public with me. And we've noticed there's still a small number. We go for pretty long walks, so it's not just around our neighborhood. But there's still a small number of Trump flags up.
Yes.
And so that just makes me think, the politicalization of something that is effectively over. But
yeah.
So anyway, I actually asked could Tater Days become political but I guess everything can be.
Everything
now.
is political.
Yeah.
I could have said here and named 10 more films, especially from the 70s.
Yeah.
Todd, that we could have talked about. I mean, what's the other one? Not The Contender with Joan Allen, but the one with Robert Redford, The Candidate, where he's losing and he starts just telling the truth or telling how he sees, and he starts going up and once again,
that's kind of like, and that's the
Bulworth
same
as well.
concept of Bulworth.
Yeah.
Bulworth, yeah.
And some of this is just back to, it doesn't matter what he said, and to give him credit, he's a great entertainer. And he's able to say this shit and people buy into it. And I think the worst part, and I don't want to go try to get towards a positive spot to end the show, but I mean, there is about 30% of us who suck. I thought it was lower.
Well, but the other thing about,
or at least have some definite biases. Can we all agree on that?
Absolutely. I think I think that group, that 30%, is made up of a bunch of different minds and there are different aspects to that political movement that are like, there's a gun group that are terrified now that we or Biden or somebody's going to take their guns away. The same way Obama took their guns away for the 8 years that he had to take them away. I mean, nobody's going to take your guns away. I have a gun. Nobody's going to take it away. We just want to make it harder for somebody who beats the shit out of his wife to own a gun. As it should be.
I agree. But, and I said this to a friend who I work with, I haven't cut people out of my lives. He's very conservative. We're having lunch this Tuesday. And I try not to talk about politics with him, because I don't, at first, if it's work, and second, I know we're on opposite, doesn't make him the world's worst person. He's very nice to me. But I said, Obama's the best thing that ever happened to the gun industry. And he said, you're right, until Biden came along.
Yeah, sales are up.
He said, I can't buy ammunition.
Yeah.
That's how quickly it sells.
Yeah.
Thinking about political films, and it was a made-for-TV movie, but it actually, and just because I've learned a little bit about Kingfish, John Goodman playing Huey P. Long. I think that Huey P. Long is such a fascinating person, because to me,
the original version of that is from 1950. Close.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've seen that.
But he was a fascinating human being. If you look at what he did for education in Louisiana, Louisiana was not known for its education when Huey P. Long was in power, or was coming to power. And one of his demands was, I mean, today he would be considered a radical socialist. He poured money into education. Now, he also used it as a way, like, the unofficial leader of the marching band for Louisiana State was Huey P. Long. He attended games and he would lead them out. And a lot of people said that was pure campaigning. It was, because they were starting to get picked up for some local broadcasts, stuff like that. And that meant you turned on your news for the sports highlight, you saw your governor. Or that being said, for a while, if you were citizens of Louisiana, you could go to that college for free if you were white. I mean, racism being what it was. But that being said, now, I mean, Biden mentioned giving community college 2 years of community college, making that available, and people are like, oh, it's, and I'm like, Huey P. Long was, I mean, he did other things, but there's got to be some sort of happy middle ground between all of this.
Swings. It's just like for the ones who are very religious. I often hear their definitions of what that is, and they're usually Christian, or at least say they are. And I always think, your Jesus sounds like he wears a business suit. It's really white and has a really shortcut, nice haircut. Right?
Are you going to start singing signs now?
No, but I could. Blocking the scenery, breaking my...
But it's true. I got in a chat with a buddy of mine from Benton, and he's very, very religious. Always was. He was someone that I always looked up to, when I was following that path. And I wanted to say, because one of the things that he said was, I don't like the man, but I like the plan. And I'm like, what plan? The dude has no plan. But we chatted a little bit back and forth, and I ended up very vaguely calling him a Pharisee, and he didn't quite understand that I was doing that. And And then I ended up. Oh yeah, I mean he knows it. I mean he's constantly quoting scripture, and but it was one of those things where I wanted to say, dude, if Jesus comes back tomorrow, you or somebody around you is gonna call ICE. I mean, that's what and you don't see that. You don't even think that. If Jesus came back tomorrow and walked through Tater Day, he's gonna get arrested. It's just truth.
Yeah.
Long-haired hippie vagrant wandering around Tater Day.
Muslim. I mean,
yeah, probably.
No, I mean that's what would happen.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I'm saying this having not been back there in 30 years, so maybe they're all holding hands, singing "Kumbaya." I don't know.
I don't think so. What we're going to do is we're going to put like a body cam, or Chad's going to do a live remote when he goes to Benton for us. We can do a live remote. What do you think, Chad?
Sure.
You can do one from Baghdad, and then another one from Benton, and then I'll do one from Hyden, Kentucky. I don't know. No one's going to talk to me. Nobody's going to remember me. I'm no one.
Well, I was going to say, but I mean, if you show up, what we need to do is rent a van that we can put like a sticker on the side to make it look like a news van, because that will bring the people out. They want to be on the news. So it's kind of like when you show up after a tornado, you show up in a news van. You're going to get, of course, you could get the educated people, but that's not the people that's going to line up at the news van.
Well, that's true. Well, they don't want to be bothered with it, and they don't want to sound foolish.
Yeah. They want to gather their facts first, right? I mean, if the tornado just happens, they're going to, what type was it? Where did it come from? That takes time to get, but you can get, some random guy on the sidewalk. I was just sitting there eating my snow cone when all of a sudden.
No. He was eating.
Here it comes. Look at that booger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He was eating his tater. All right. Is there any other movies you guys want to talk about before we go?
No, I mean, we pretty much mentioned all the ones on my list. The one that hasn't been mentioned, it's fairly new, but Jon Stewart's Irresistible, I think, is interesting just by looking from the campaign aspect of it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Is it a documentary or?
No, it's a movie with Steve Carell and I'm blanking on the actress's name.
I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's all about Steve Carell is a campaign organizer, and he finds this man who's an Army vet in it's either Nebraska or Montana, and he wants him to be the next Democratic candidate. So he goes and tries to get him to run for Congress. Or a local mayor of that town. Sorry, I apologize. And he's leading him towards a bigger campaign. And it's all about the campaign. And there's a lot of interest. Jon Stewart goes into very vivid explanations of how campaigns are run now. It's fascinating. Highly recommend watching it.
What was
more about the campaign than actual wanting the office?
Right.
Which I think is the story of Trump. And Howard Stern has said that too. He said, yeah, he wants to run and win. There's a difference between doing that and wanting to actually be president.
Yeah.
It's the competition.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back and you look at that picture of he and his wife the night that he won, and they look miserable.
They really do.
Behind the table. And
I'm glad. Yeah. Go ahead.
They look like, what have we done?
Yeah. When he walked out, when they announced that he won and he walked out to the stage, you could tell he was like, oh God, I didn't think it was going to go this far. I'm glad you said that, because I thought that too. I didn't hear anybody else.
I have always thought he never wanted to win. He simply wanted to.
He was promoting a new book.
Yeah,
promoting a new book. He wanted to get his Moscow hotel going, so he wanted to make sure that Russia was taken care of. I mean, all of those little things he wanted to do. I don't think he wanted office at all. In fact, I think he was depending on the fact that he was going to make a bankload of money if he lost, because he could go out to the people that he still, even at the end of this thing, he was getting donations from people and clicking the little website thing so that they were donating every month or every week or whatever it ended up being. The man's always been a charlatan.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart. Bless him.
Another movie.
I heard that growing up so many times, and I didn't realize what that meant until I was in my 20s.
Well, the unfortunate thing was they saying it to you. Were they saying it to you?
Oh no, yeah, they were saying it to me. Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
I was like, oh, I never even registered. And then in the 20s, I found out what it meant. I'm like, son of a bitch. And why did it take me to my 20s to know what bless your heart meant?
Bless your heart, Chad.
Again, never mind. I could go on a rant.
By the way, there's also The Front Runner with Hugh Jackman that came out in 2018.
Oh,
no one
Gary
cares,
Hart.
James.
Gary
We're talking
Hart.
about Bless Your Heart now. We're past politics.
Well, that's Gary Hart. It all comes together, Chad. It loops together.
Did you watch that, Todd? And
I actually haven't. No, I haven't seen it.
It's not a bad movie, and there are a lot of the Gary Hart stuff I kind of forgot about.
Yeah. And when did that come out?
Oh man,
2018 is when it was released.
The thing is, because my head has been in this, like I don't want my entertainment to be political now. Like, so it was interesting when you said this, because I've stayed away from political dramas. I've stayed away from political everything in the fictional world.
As have I. Yeah, Irresistible was the first venture out into that, and after watching it, I enjoyed it, but I instantly regretted it. I have not been able to go back. I'm right there with you.
I think that's fair though, because my wife is an attorney, and I'm not allowed to watch Law and Order anymore because she says and be like, nope, couldn't do that. Nope, can't approve. Nope, that's a violation. Nope. And I'm like, honey, I didn't sit down to watch this to get the flow of the courtroom. I was trying to figure out who done killed that person.
Well, and Sam Waterson's sweet ass, is he still on the show?
I mean, he is in this show. I don't get to watch it anymore, Chad.
Well,
I just said that.
We'll end on a high note. What have you guys been watching to make yourselves feel better? I will actually know what the other two for the most part because we talk every week. Todd, what have you been watching? What is something you can recommend to our audience before we get out of here?
There's a show on Big Shot that my buddy Dean Laurie ran, and so that's got what's his name, the good-looking guy from
Joe Lewis,
John Stamos.
I was close.
And it's comedy, and it's on Disney, and it's and I know all the backstory, so it was fascinating to watch it, how it came together. Just finished Falcon and the Snowman, which is what I refer to it because I can't not. And
I just got what you were saying. The one snowman, eastbound and down.
And so from the moment that they advertised that, it's always been Falcon and the Snowman in my head. And I hadn't.
Well, now it's going to be that way for me now, by the way.
Yes, that's what it'll be. But, I never thought about it.
But
the Falcon and the Snowman.
It was interesting because it felt like it was, I think Malcolm was facing a lot of challenges but I don't know this. I haven't spoken to him about it, but it was, I liked it in the end, but it felt like a show that is at a new network and everybody's trying to find a way. And, but at the same time, I loved Wanda. What else have I been watching? We watched a show called Ripper Street.
I've watched Ripper Street. BBC
show that they shot in Ireland. It was fascinating because it never went where I thought it was going to go. But a lot of BBC shows do that. They tend to break all the rules. And that's it off the top of my head. I mean, I've seen a bunch of horror movies. Freaky is amazing.
I watched Freaky. So I had about 6 hours to myself a few weekends ago. She took the kid and went to do something. And I had a few drinks and watched Freaky and laughed my ass off.
Freaky is hilarious.
Have the other two of you watched it? With Vince Vaughn? It's Vince Vaughn's best performance in a long time.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Have you seen Arkansas?
No. What is that?
I've driven through it.
It's a pretty his performance in that movie is pretty good. It's about drug runners basically.
Oh really?
Yeah, Vince Vaughn in Arkansas is pretty solid.
He lives not far from here. Every time I see him, he gives me a stink eye.
Does he know you? Do you know him?
No, I've never met him before.
Dog crap on his yard.
He fucking hates Jason X or something because I don't know what's going on. When we walked by, Ida was like, he just give you the stink eye? And I was like, he just gave me the stink eye. Well, we just passed him on the sidewalk. And then I saw him somewhere else and I looked over and he was, because he lives down here. So anyway.
Yell at him and go, Lost World sucked.
Well, when you have him on the show, ask him what the fuck
I'd love to have him on the show because actually I think he's fairly conservative, right?
He's very conservative,
yeah. He was in that Craig, it's not Craig, it's like R. Craig Baxley. I kind of liked it. It's Dragged Across Concrete with him and Mel Gibson. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I kind of liked it. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Todd, thank you so much. We hope we actually get you back sometime. Next time we won't say, we'll do something. I don't know.
Let's do religion.
Oh yeah,
because the people who didn't get pissed at us because we usually don't, we try to stay away from politics, but the people who didn't get pissed at this episode, be sure to tune in for religion.
Chad, this will be your chance to tell us all about why we need to convert to Zoroastrianism. I know you want to do it, Chad. You bring it up every time the camera's not rolling. Just own it. Do it now.
So seriously, how many of the people who are subscribed are going to be pissed off because I was on the show?
Nobody. Well, really? Nobody we'll ever hear from now.
No. Well,
right, guys. I mean, we rarely ever. I've said a couple of things that I've got messages for that somebody, but I actually haven't heard any of that in 2 years. Yeah. And this will be 4 years this summer.
I think, to be honest, most of the comments that we get was, "Huh, I didn't think about it that way," or "That's weird,"
or like, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Now it's going to happen eventually. And like I said, the thing that still shocks me is the only time that we got negative vote down on YouTube, somebody went out of their way to go, "Oh, they're talking about Vincent Price," down vote. And I was like,
really?
Yeah. That was the episode that I was like, I love Vincent Price. He's my favorite everything. And that is the only episode I need to go back.
He's no Oliver Platt.
Well, he can't be, Chad. One of them still, as far as I know, breathing, and the other one's not.
It was a very James heavy episode, and it really was some guy that just started shitting on it. So it just happens. I don't know.
But no, but that's my entire thing is, if this episode gets a downvote, it'll probably be because I've said if this episode gets a down, but it will never be our first because somebody went, "Oh, Vincent Price, nah."
I just watched Dr. Phoebes. I always say it wrong.
Yeah.
Dr. Five
recently.
Had you never seen it before?
I had seen it so long ago, I really didn't remember it until I started watching it again.
Well, I watched it a few years ago, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Joseph Cotton, who's in Citizen Kane, is in this.
I mean, it's a crazy movie.
But you know what I mean? It's like, well, Vincent Price you expect, but you're like, dude, you're like buddies with Citizen Kane. You worked with Hitchcock. He worked with Hitchcock.
I got extra credit once in a graduate level Shakespeare course because I asked the professor after class. I was like, "You ever see Theater of Blood?" He said, "No," and because we were talking about Titus Andronicus, and I said, "Oh, well, there's a scene where he does a murder based on Titus Andronicus," and he goes, "Do you own it?" And I said, "Yeah, I own it." He goes, and this was tell you how long ago I owned it on VHS. He was like, "Well, you bring it in, and let me watch it." He literally watched it, he came back, he goes, "I'm going to give you extra credit, but that may not be the best Shakespeare adaptation I've ever seen." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's not meant to be." It was a lot of fun.
All right. Great. So when you come back, you're going to talk about religion and abortion and gun control.
Yeah.
Well, let's not handle all three. Let's stretch it out into three different shows.
I think they all would literally go hand in hand.
Actually, what you need to do is, we'll give you some time to do this. Come up with your own religion that addresses all those. And remember, if it's a religion, it becomes tax exempt. This could also help you with those taxes, which you already don't pay.
And that's all right, because you're already rich living next to Vince Vaughn, who gives you the stink eye. Go ahead and pitch that religion to Vince. And then if you sell him on it, then you know you can sell the rest of the world.
Yeah.
The stink eye.
He's my guinea pig. He's my guinea.
Why the hell would Vince Vaughn be mad at you?
I have no idea. I don't. Maybe he gives everybody a stink eye. I don't know. It was weird.
And with that, so much, I don't know whether
now the flip side of that is
hates me or Tater Days.
The flip side of that, by the way, though, is now if I see Vince Vaughn and he doesn't give me the stink eye, should I be mad that I'm not even worth that?
No, but I want to know.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been Bonehead.
And real quick before, and Joe, you can end right on this note. James's real feelings about Vincent Price. He's a poor man's Foster Brooks. Good night, everyone.
I'll kill you, Chad.